One is we've got a real desire to decrease complacency in the industry. And number two, save people from severe burn injuries. Three, we ultimately save lives. But what he'd done didn't affect just him, but it affected his wife, it affected mum and dad, it affected brother. They were all going through it. So that's one of the key messages that Mark is really trying to get across to people. But once we sort of explain why we're there, show a couple of videos and we get Mark up there, the whole room changes completely because there's nothing quite like having the unique perspective of someone that's lived it and been through it. If I don't know this, people that are wearing it and the organisations that are buying it have got no bloody idea. The whole idea and vision was we're going out to teach people. And our whole approach to market has been an education-based and knowledge-focused approach. We are the only FR brand in Australia that's actually certified to the test method that actually provides the ARC rating or the calorie rating and protection level of your garment. Basically guarantees that what we're labelling the garment is has been verified and validated by a third-party notified body.
Welcome back to another episode on the Gold Room podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Today, lucky enough to have Dean Smith from True Brands heading up Bull Protective Technologies. Mate, thanks for joining me.
No, thanks for having me, George.
Not a problem. Look, as you know, mate, we start every episode with the life and the times. There's always a great man or woman behind these businesses and out there heading to all the different sites selling their wares. So, look, mate, take us back to the early years.
Early years, probably a bit scary. Yeah, look, I wasn't much of an academic person. I didn't finish high school. I left high school just after year 11. Ironically, I went to do a pre-apprenticeship in the electrical trade.
Oh, true.
At TAFE. I wasn't very good at it. I probably shouldn't say I wasn't very good at it. I probably chose not to be very good at it.
Yep.
Got about 6 months into that and, decided to pack up and go do something else. I was probably too interested in partying and getting on the booze with the boys and playing footy and all that sort of stuff. So I suppose to be honest, through that, I suppose, teenage years and into my early 20s, I was probably a bit of a shit.
Okay.
Probably
Is that the parents reckon the same?
Yeah, they'd probably agree.
Yeah, okay.
It did come up at my wedding. It was probably just, I suppose, a little bit of a mix of the culture of people I was around and things like that. And anyway, I suppose got to my mid-20s and that's probably when I settled down a little bit. And you mentioned a good woman. Met my wife when I was 26. And I quickly realised she was probably the one that wasn't going to take too much crap in her life, and I had to settle down a bit and really knuckle down. So probably from there, that's when my professional career sort of started. I've been in safety and workwear for 26 years.
Oh wow!
But that was really the point where I really sort of knuckled down, and the people I work for today were involved in that business as well. So had a little bit of a path there where I started just in internal sort of sales and answering phones and doing the office stuff. That was with a company called Heatley's Safety and Industrial, who still operate today. Spent a few years there and went through, I suppose, a few different companies probably over the next sort of 15 years in that distribution channel, in a mix of, growing from that internal sales sort of role into sales rep roles, into major account management and into business development and sales management. So all the way up to, I suppose, where I am today, where the two directors of True Brands, or soon to be known as the PPE Group, who I'd worked with both over a number of years. Tony Urquhart, who'd been a mentor of mine for quite a long time. I'd always reached out to him even when we weren't sort of working together. I reached out to him in it was probably early 2021 and just sort of said, look, I kind of feel like I'm a bit stuck and getting a little bit bored of what I wanted to do. And I always had a bit of a goal, in my career that I really wanted to get into something of my own, even in like product development and things like that. So yeah, reached out to Tony and Damien. Just said, look, is there an opportunity to come and work with you again? They built their business up from 2015 into a pretty well known business, especially in WA. And it was probably about a month later they came to me with an opportunity and something they'd sort of developed out of thin air, and that was to go
They
and.
must have really wanted you then, mate.
Oh, I'd like to think so. I probably made it a little bit hard for them at one point, but yeah, no, they took a bit of a leap of faith with me. They knew what type of worker I was and what I could offer, and they opened up the opened up the road to run Bull Protective Technologies, which is the FR component of the business.
Beautiful, mate.
Yeah,
let's get into that.
Yeah, so Bull is we manufacture premium grade fire resistant materials and garments for Australian industry. So for protection against arc flash and flash fire. So arc flash, obviously, from an electrical point of view, which is everywhere now, whether it's oil and gas mining or the electrical industry itself, among many others. But obviously the oil and gas industry from a flash fire scenario specifically. So Bull was a recognised brand, especially in WA and the Northern Territory somewhat. So it was probably born and bred there.
How'd the name come about?
So Bull, yeah, it's an interesting question. So our, I suppose, fabric creator who worked with our factory, his name was Rob the Deacon. He probably first introduced himself to Australia. So he's selling fabrics all over the world and the technology. And he probably first came to Australia, I reckon, about 2013, 2014, and started introducing his fabrics into the country, into various different avenues. And then over that time, he developed a really close relationship with Tony Urquhart and Damien Smith. And eventually, I suppose closer to 2019, that then became Bull as the primary agent for what we call Parvatex fabrics. So they did a lot of work over a number of years around the country, showing the fabrics around, and they knew they had a really good fabric and it was really highly regarded by industry. However, it was an expensive product as well.
Yep.
So they had a few wins here and there and started to get a bit of traction in the market, but it wasn't really until Bull was created. And as I said, there were a number of different sort of channels and distributors that had access to the product, and that was quickly sort of refined when Bull was created. So the Bull became basically the manufacturer in Australia for Parvatex fabrics. So the actual fabric itself is probably the only fabric in Australia that's actually designed and engineered for Australian conditions that we find here today. So we knew we had a really good product, but it probably was a bit unrealised. Our broader business manufactures head-to-toe PPE. So that ranges from non-FR product to safety specs to gloves, respiratory and hard hats and all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
For our business, for people like Tony, it probably got to a point where there was only so much they could do with it with their own two hands, and what he was doing with Rob at the time. So that's where they started thinking about, well, maybe we need to get a category manager on board to sort of run with this 24/7. And sadly, Rob the Deacon lost his life in 2021. It was actually only only a couple of months, I think, before I actually came into the business. So and it was suddenly as well. So I came on board in 2021, and it was a pretty emotional time for the team. They developed a really close bond with Rob, and really wanted to see that fabric and brand relish in the Australian market. And unfortunately, Rob probably didn't get to see that. But I know he would be looking down on us today, and he would not be able to wipe the smile off his face, because from where we were at that point to where we are in 2026, and the way that the brand is now recognised in the Australian market, not just in Western Australia but Northern Territory as well, but the east coast of Australia where we didn't have a brand presence at all. He would be giggling himself away, mate.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so talk to me a little bit about the brand presence over East. You know, like obviously up north is oil and gas. It's oil and gas heavy.
Yep.
You guys are in iron ore as well, and I think you're having a little push into the gold mining industry.
Yeah, look, it's probably the next front for us. Iron ore has definitely been like a major growth area for us over the last 5 years. Some big organisations in there that have latched on to Bull for good reason, which I'm sure we'll go into in a bit as to why that is. The oil and gas game we were already quite strong in WNNT, so that was, as I said, where it was born and bred. But the east coast of Australia was just hadn't heard of the Bull name. We had no presence over there. There was no office. There was no salespeople pushing the product over there or talking about it. And in fact, when I came on board in 2021, we've got BDMs within our business pretty much in every state in the country. Our BDMs hated selling the product because it's not a cheap product. It is one of the more expensive products in the market. It's not
pay for quality though, mate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
shouldn't be afraid of that.
No, not at all. But I think the hard thing for them was that they didn't know how to talk about it.
Yeah,
they hadn't really been given any education or knowledge or any of those little things that help sort of talk about a product, and they were just purely just putting it in front of people with a touch and feel sort of scenario and hoping that will work. And
needs case studies. You need some good product knowledge. You need someone to come through and be able to say, hey, listen, this is where it's been used, and this is I guess this is where we're going to go into talking about Mark Inglis.
Yeah. Well, look, I was about to say, in today's day and age, the industry's gone past that.
Yep.
If they want to buy cheap, they're going to buy cheap.
Absolutely,
some people
mate.
you can't change their way of thinking at times, but yeah, we've certainly gone down a path that has given our salespeople around the country real confidence, because we do have points of difference.
Yep.
And there's significant points of difference and non-comparable in the market.
Go, mate, rip into them.
So once we were able to actually talk to our BDMs about that and actually train them properly, I reckon it was within 12 months, their whole perception around Bull FR or Bull PT within the business had completely done a 180, and it was then the go-to product that they went to speak to people about. And that's where we've driven a lot of the success from. So I suppose talking about those next steps, our whole approach to market is a little bit different. As I said, I've been in this industry for 26 years, and I'm sure you've seen it over your time as well. Something that I get really, I get agitated over it when
pissed off, mate. You can say it.
When a salesperson comes in and they just throw something in front of you and they just talk shit.
Yep. And
don't really sort of have an idea about what they're talking about. And will you buy this product? It's really good, isn't it? I just can't stand that. So my whole goal in the industry was, look, I'll take a step back a little bit, because over my journey, I'd obviously been exposed to a lot of FR over that time. I'm from Western Australia, and Western Australia it's a hungry area for FR. There's a lot of people using it, especially in that oil and gas game. So I'd been exposed to a lot of different brands and different fabrics and different ideas and things like that. And when I took the role on, I thought I actually knew quite a bit about it. And then part of my role in the first 12 months was to basically study hard. And
really?
I became somewhat of an FR fabric expert in terms of understanding the materials that are made up in these fabrics, because there's multiple materials or multiple fibres that are actually used in these products. Also the quality of those materials and where they're sourced, because certain factories will have different qualities of those materials in different areas. I mean, we're talking about materials that are coming out of China and Pakistan and Vietnam and Japan and all sorts of different places. So we gained a real understanding of that. So over that time, I actually realised what I didn't know. And that made me think that if I don't know this,
how's the end user?
Correct. The people that are wearing it and the organisations that are buying it have got no bloody idea. So the whole idea and vision was we're going out to teach people. And our whole approach to market has been an education-based and knowledge-focused approach, to the point where pretty much every meeting that we have, we're not putting product on the table and trying to sell a product that way. We're actually educating people to understand it and get a different perspective about it.
Yeah, beautiful.
I have a little bit of a saying that I use to a lot of my people, is that once they understand it, they respect it more.
Yep.
One of the things in our industry is, and it's very typical and common, that FR materials and garments will be, or arc-rated materials and garments will be compared to one another, similar to cotton drill products. So non-FR products, which a lot of people have worn, and you've worn them as well. And I suppose the simple explanation of that is you could have 30 different brands in the market that sell a non-FR material, cotton drill, lightweight vented shirt, yellow navy with reflective tape, have vents on the back, and they put their own little bells and whistles on it to make it their own product. There might be slight differences in the quality of the cotton material that they use, but essentially they're very similar sort of products. When you talk about FR brands, fabrics, every brand and fabric in the market is different.
Yep.
They all use different technologies and what we call different fabric compositions or fibre blends. So, for example, our fabric name is called Parvatex. Our brand name in Australia is Bull PT.
Yep.
Parvatex fabrics are actually sold all across the globe. Very big in the US and Canada, very big in Europe as well, but also very big in Australia now as well. The difference with it is that they're purpose-built, designed and engineered for the locations that they're going to.
Going to that, mate. Like, what do you mean? It's for the 50-degree temperatures up north, and is it the ambient temperature, or what is it about?
100%. You're pretty much nailing it.
Yeah. Okay.
So, our people in Australia are working in some pretty rugged conditions. We're talking about those oil and gas industries and mining industries. I spent a week last week in the Pilbara experiencing some of it, albeit it was a little bit cold, but pretty rugged conditions, right? So what we tend to find is, people are craving something that's lightweight and comfortable, which goes part and parcel of those areas. You don't want to be wearing something hot and heavy, otherwise they'd probably die of heat exhaustion before anything else. And that's where FR's had a bit of a bad rap over the years. It's been known as hot and heavy product, and no one ever really wanted to wear it. But
I've seen some blokes wearing it and some Sparkies over the years, and it does look. I've never worn it.
Yeah.
But it does look does look heavy.
Yeah, and that's typically the perception of it. Technology's changed a lot. So the fabric that was created in Parvatex for Australia was designed for hot and humid conditions. So it's not only designed to be lightweight and comfortable, but it's also designed for durability as well, and longevity. Because if you had gone back 10 years ago and asked me what was the biggest issue in FR materials in Australia, I would have said comfort all day long. Nowadays, it's durability and longevity. Comfort's come a long way. There's a lot of lightweight products in the market, but they all perform differently in different environmental conditions. So some breathe better than others, etc. But the biggest issue is durability and longevity by a country mile. And the reason for that is we find in Australia that there are a lot of importers in Australia that import their own product, but they don't actually specialise or have any expertise behind it.
Yep.
So often they will go by a touch and feel, and they might put it on and think, this feels fabulous.
Look at the spec sheet.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Buy off a spec sheet.
Yep. And then they bring it in, sell it to market, and then you find it's only lasting 6 to 9 months in the industry because it's not holding up to the conditions that a lot of these products are actually going to. So you're talking about conditions in the Pilbara, WA, 45 degrees, Kalgoorlie, you'd be the same.
Gets hot.
And really rugged temperatures, and even the I suppose the conditions that they're working in anyway, a lot of red dirt and crap around. So you need something that's going to hold up, and our technology does that. So with our factory and Rob, they'd actually created this fabric that is designed specifically for Australian conditions, hot and humid, but extremely rugged fabric that can hold up to that, but lightweight and breathable. So one of our biggest selling areas in Australia from a comfort point of view would be in Darwin. So we probably control about 80 to 90% of the market up there, just simply because it's the best performing fabric that you can wear up there from a lightweight and comfort point of view, but also, I suppose, from a wicking point of view as well, so wicking moisture away from the skin and that escaping back into the atmosphere as well. So it's a product that's designed to keep people more comfortable for longer in more trying conditions. But that's
important, you know. You're out there for a bloody 12-hour working day, 14 hours door to door. It's not, you know, everyone thinks, oh, it'll be easy, but mining's not easy. So you need to be backing yourself with a great product from start to finish.
And that's why we're doing this education and knowledge piece, because people aren't going to know that, right? So there's technology that we have in our fabric, and I know we'll probably go into that shortly, that, as I said, you can't compare it to anything else in the market. And what we say, like, I'm the face of the brand, so if I'm talking shit, you know, it's going to come back at me pretty quickly. So we speak really comfortably and confidently about it. But we need the opportunity to actually be able to explain that to people as to why you should pay this and how you're going to save money down here.
That's what this is for,
in
mate.
the long term. So yeah, we've got a real story behind it, and we do a lot of independent testing with FR materials that you find in Australia. There's not many FR materials that I haven't sent to a lab for testing.
Other people's gear?
Yeah, pretty much every fabric that you can think of, we've tested. And the reason we do that, it's not to slag off other brands or anything like that. We certainly don't do anything like that. I couldn't care less what they're doing, to be honest. I'm a bit more focused on what we're doing. It was probably more to actually understand our product,
the quality of what you've got,
and what we actually had. Because back then, like when I came into the business, we knew it was good, but we didn't know why. So that was something that we've done a lot of. We've invested a lot of money into it, and we continue to do so today. And then there's the other aspect to it from an education and knowledge point of view, is that one of the, I suppose, the key elements of what we protect against is arc flash, amongst flash fire as well. But arc flash is a hot topic in Australia.
Is,
and coming from your background, mate, I'm sure you've heard little bits and pieces about it.
Oh, I've heard a lot about it, you know, like I've been doing HV switching for years on site, and, you know, but we'd be using big, heavy 40 cal suits.
Yeah, the suits, do you know anyone who's experienced it, or has it affected yourself in any way?
An arc blast?
Yeah.
I was in a switch room many years ago when there was an arc blast with one of my workmates, and he ended up getting a full facial. The skin, you know, burnt his eyeballs, had blisters on his eyeballs. It was a little bit horrific. For him.
Yeah, it's nasty shit.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, and it's the old case. Can't see it.
Yeah,
you know, electricity, you can't see it.
That.
Exactly.
Yeah. So look, and even me, like I'm not an electrician by trade. I don't profess to be. But what I do know and what I can help with is getting people to understand how this gear plays a role. So we've sort of developed an education and knowledge platform and training sort of a training solution that is very unique. No one else in the industry is doing it. And back in 2024, and I'd actually seen this video a number of times over a couple of years, but I went to seek out a guy who had an arc flash. He is based in Brisbane, and I've seen his video on an electrical safety office video, so Queensland government, and he'd had a significant arc flash in 2019, but knew he came out of it, and he was sort of back and working and whatnot. So when did I seek him out? 2024. So 5 years on, and over this time, I'd been doing a lot of conferences and safety shows and things like that, and talking about arc protection and all that sort of stuff, and got a lot of different contacts over that time countrywide, and was trying to seek this guy out. Could not find him for the life of me. Got our national marketing guy involved, who's basically a whiz at finding anyone. He said, "Yeah, let me have a go," and he had a crack at it for about 2 months. Mate, I cannot find this bloke anywhere.
No phone, no email, nothing.
The electrical safety office didn't publish his last name.
Oh, okay.
So we were trying to find him. He had no social media accounts, nothing. So anyway, we ended up giving up after about 9 months and started thinking about some other avenues, and we couldn't find a solution that sort of fit. Anyway, long story short, it was about a couple of months later. He said, "Nah, let's have one more crack at it." So anyway, I put my thinking cap on and started ringing a few of the contacts that I'd met over time. One particular guy, Chris Halliday, works for a company called Power Logic, and I'd met him through some of that's called the Mining Electrical Safety Conference. I'm not sure whether you've heard of that one, but yeah, they're based in Brisbane and Perth at the moment. So yeah, I knew he'd been around a long time, knew a lot of people. So I rang him, said, "Mate, I need your help." I said, "Do you know this guy? Do you know anyone that might know him?" And he goes, "Mate," "I've actually been in one of his talks over in Brisbane." He goes, "Leave it with me." He goes, "Let me make a call, see if I can get some details for you." So he ended up getting me a contact for the electrical safety office in Queensland that actually did the videos with Mark. And yeah, they said they wouldn't give me his details. They said, "Oh, we'll reach out to him, see if he wants to talk to you." And anyway, so I ended up following up with them 2 weeks later, and they hadn't done it, so they did it pretty much straight away. And they basically said, "Oh, look, he'll call you if he's interested." And I said,
Fair
"Okay,
enough.
yeah, no worries." Anyway, so I wasn't expecting a call, and anyway, I was in the car one day going to a meeting, and had this number pop up on my phone, and it was Mark. And funny story is that initially he was just quickly going to tell me to piss off because he thought I was just a salesman trying to flog product, and he was not interested one bit. And yeah, once I'd sort of had him on that, I ended up having a half-hour conversation with him and told him exactly what the vision was, what we were trying to do, how we wanted to change the industry. And within that half an hour, he changed his tune pretty much straight away, and he was on board pretty much within 30 minutes. And yeah, rest is history. He's been on with us since then. So yeah, we've been able to recreate his I suppose story, which we've now created our own sort of YouTube channel, which is an educational YouTube channel that everyone has access to at the PPE group, that is. So yeah, you can actually find on there his full story, but we've also done some shortened versions of it. So there's like a 45-minute detailed version, heaps of graphic images on there, which I'm sure we'll show on screen as well.
Yep.
Which, yeah, it's quite an inspiring story, the way he tells it. He's actually a really good storyteller, even though he'll tell you differently. He thinks he's not that great, but he's actually really good. But yeah, we've actually created 2 smaller versions of it as well, like a 7-minute version and a 15-minute version that organisations can grab for safety meetings and toolbox talks and things like that, just to, I suppose, put it front and centre with people about what can happen. Yeah, absolutely.
That's important.
So we did that initially with him and rolled out some educational stuff. And since then, we've been doing the workplace health and safety shows. We've presented at a number of those, presented his story and how that sort of interacts with what we're doing and the product that we manufacture. We've done the mining electrical shows as well. We've just done a week's long road show up in the Pilbara last week, which was eye-opening for him as well. He hadn't seen the iron ore operations up there. So it's really starting to take off.
It's just massive, eh? It's on a scale.
Yeah,
it's difficult to understand until you've been and seen it.
Yeah, and what we're finding, I mean, we're dealing with, these guys, they're working on the mines and they're busy, and when they get called into these meetings or these little presentations, they don't really know what to expect. And you can sort of see that when they're in there. They're kind of not really overly interested and a bit dull and whatnot. But once we sort of explain why we're there, show a couple of videos and we get Mark up there, the whole room changes completely, because there's nothing quite like having the unique perspective of someone that's lived it and been through it.
Yep.
Especially when you've got graphic images and video and things like that he can actually walk you through exactly what happened. And he went through a traumatic experience.
Do you want to give us a little rundown?
Yeah, sure.
Like I'll also obviously put the links into to the
great.
long form and the short form. But in your words.
Yeah, look, I know this story quite well now, but I just can't tell it as good as him, which he'll love that. Look, I'll just quickly say, like, he is that invested in this in terms of giving back. He feels like he's been given a second chance.
Yep.
So his whole purpose in this is to help others and make sure that they don't make the same mistakes that he did. So in terms of what he did, and as I said, I'm not an electrician by trade, so but yeah, he was working on a switchboard doing some testing. I think it was called PQ testing, if that makes any sense to you, or getting V-Sense. Anyway, so it was at an aged care facility. And he wasn't really working too much on the tools back then. He was basically a supervisor at this company, or the lead electrician, but they used to sub out all their work. Anyway, they had this testing job they had to do at this aged care facility, and he put up his hand because they were struggling to get someone. So he said, I'll just go down and do it. He goes, it's 5 minutes from my place. I'll go down in the morning, and just go and do it, plug it in, and we're right. A job that he's done hundreds of times.
It's always the case.
Yeah. So he kissed his missus, and when he left home, and literally 5 minutes down the road, started doing this thing. And to please the client, he decided to work live. So it was an aged care facility. They weren't too keen on turning the power off. It was kind of like a hospital. So yeah, you can imagine, and that's fair enough. But yeah, ideally you don't want to be working live, but he made that choice. So, and
there's a rigmarole if you need to be doing any live testing or live work.
Yeah, correct. So to please the client, he decided to do it live. Now, he went through all his risk analysis and his swims and all those sorts of things, but he'll tell you today that he ignored them, right? So there's a picture we'll be able to put up on screen where you can see once he's had the incident, he's basically wearing just a normal polo shirt, pair of shorts, pair of sneakers. And so anyway, yeah, he was doing this job. The transformer was only about 10 metres away, I think, so the fault current was quite high.
Yep.
If that's the way it's pronounced. But so he did this, and unfortunately he paid the price, and it exploded in front of him, and he was probably lucky in a way. So you'll see in the pictures that we show, it shows that he's wearing high voltage gloves, the rubber gloves. So in the outline you'll see where he was wearing the gloves, but up here he's pretty much burnt to a crisp on both arms, and obviously on the legs as well.
Wow.
Copped it on the face as well. Where he was really lucky, and you can see this in the images, is that the shirt and the shorts were actually still intact. Typically, if the arc flash was actually big enough, that should have just melted, and that would have caused significant injuries to his chest and his stomach and the top of his legs. But the way that he was actually working on the switchboard was pretty much at arm's length. So the arc flash, when it went, it obviously wasn't big enough to actually penetrate hard enough against the shirt. If you had been any closer, it would have just melted.
Yep.
So he was kind of saved in a way from chest down, but yeah, under obviously the bottom part of where his shorts were, that's where he copped some significant injuries there as well. So yeah, you can see an image that will be on screen where he's on the phone. So he got ushered in by a bloke who found him and said, "Mate, you don't look very good. Just come in here and have a seat." So that image is him on his phone, on the phone to his missus, who was his girlfriend at the time, but they're married now. Telling her, "Look, I've just blown myself up. I'm not too good, but I'm okay. But I'm going to the hospital." So 10 minutes ago, he was giving her a kiss at home and saying, "See you later." And so there's a bit of a story behind that picture, which he actually tells, is that he still today does not know who took that picture from 7 years ago. So that picture was taken by someone who was coming through the admin area and seen him sitting down on the phone and taken a snap with their phone. And the only reason he got a hold of it was because that picture was then obviously texted to somebody else and then texted to somebody else, and it did the rounds, and it ended up going to a mate of his. So he's got a lot of mates in the electrical industry, especially in Brisbane. And this particular guy was in a company called Heyman's Electrical. They're a wholesaler, so do all the switch gear and all that sort of stuff. And he was in there buying some gear, and this guy across the counter's gone, "Oh, okay, look at this dickhead." And he's looked at it, and it was his mate. He's gone, "Bloody hell." He goes, "That's Mark." So he's tried getting on the phone to him, but by this time he was pretty much near at hospital. So, yeah, it spread quickly. So still today, 7 years on, it'll be 7 years in June. He still doesn't know who took that picture. So he's trying to, but he's very thankful that picture was taken, because it's actually a real eye-opening picture of exactly what can happen.
Yep.
Following an arc flash. Now, I suppose the story with him is at that point he was in no pain from the arc flash, and he talks about that a lot. That the pain that was actually experienced was the treatment that he had to endure
afterwards.
Yeah.
He's burnt all his nerve endings off.
Yeah. So
the initial blast.
So he was obviously, the ambulance had asked him.
Also the adrenaline.
Adrenaline, yeah, exactly. That's what the ambulance said. They said you're running on adrenaline, but it's not going to last very long. So they pumped him full of morphine or something like that. But yeah, the real pain for him was because obviously he had to have skin grafts. So he uses the old explanation of if you can imagine going to the kebab shop and they're grinding the meat off the kebab to go on your wrap. He said that's what they do to the back of your bum and your
I'll probably never have a kebab again now. Thanks, mate.
But he explains it that way because it's pretty much exactly that. And they obviously grab that skin and they stamp it on his arms and his legs, and then they bandage it with a compression bandage and whatnot really tightly. He said the most painful experience for him through that whole process was the removal of the bandages. So when they'd initially done it, he was in splints for 5 or 6 days. So he was in bed. So this was after the surgery, the initial surgery. Arms and legs, couldn't move, couldn't pick his nose, couldn't feed himself, couldn't piss or shit or whatever.
Yeah.
So his missus was coming in every day, feeding him, doing all those things. So he was completely immobilised. But once he got out of the splints, that's when they had to start taking the bandages off, clean them, all that sort of stuff. So they had to usher him into a shower, get him completely wet, and they drugged him up full of painkillers. I don't know what it was, but and then they would remove the bandage. But you can imagine the stickiness that they were creating. He said even with all the pain relief they were giving him, he said it was the most horrific pain he's ever experienced, and he endured that for 2 weeks every day. So, but I suppose once he came out of it and he started feeling okay and obviously went home, it was the mental side that kicked in.
Yep.
So he talks about that a lot, and that's probably one of the things we're really honing in with a lot of organisations is that when he went home, he had a lot of shame and embarrassment. He was an accomplished electrician. He did his apprenticeship in Scotland, and then he worked in Afghanistan helping build bases and camps in Afghanistan for 5 or 6 years. He uses the bit of a joke to say that he spent 5 or 6 years in the war zone in Afghanistan and he got blown up in Brisbane. So he obviously experienced a lot. Yeah. And to make that error, he felt absolutely terrible. And his first thought was that I'm fucked. Like he wasn't worrying about himself. He goes, I'm in so much trouble here for what had happened. Yeah. He knew he'd have the electrical safety office on him and work cover or work safe or whatever it is. Yeah, he did. Yeah.
The government came down on him.
They were trying to call him in the hospital, like literally a day or two after it happened. And he's going, mate, I've just been blown up. But they wanted him then and there. And he ended up having to go to a tribunal eventually and whatnot. But that's another story. But yeah, he really got down in that place that he was, and especially when he went home, he just didn't really know what he was going to do, or what people were going to think of him and all that. His now wife will often say that he was like the hardest person to live with in that 6 months that he was at home after that. And anyway, they got recommended to go and do grief counselling, and he just straight away went, fuck that. He goes, I'm not having someone get inside my head and, try to analyse me and all that. You go, no, I don't want it. But his wife actually said, no, I think we need to go. So he said, okay, we'll go. And that's when he found out that how hard it was actually for her over that time. So she was coming in every day, seeing her soon-to-be husband wrapped up in bandages. She often says he looked like a mummy. Wrapped up in bandages, completely immobilised, didn't know what he was going to look like or how he was going to be afterwards. And but she was the positive one, being strong for him and getting him through and whatnot. And she pretty much broke down in this, these counselling sessions, and that's when he kind of woke up and he realised that what he'd done didn't affect just him, but it affected
others,
his wife, it affected his mum and dad, it affected his brother. They were all going through it. Yep. So that's one of the key messages that Mark is really trying to get across to people, and shit happens, right? Arc flash is something that's going to continue to happen in industry, but what we're trying to do is decrease the complacency in the industry. A lot of the arc flashes that we hear about in Australia, I reckon 95% of them, there's some type of complacency that's actually played a role.
When you're doing the same thing over and over and over and over,
yeah,
you know, you start to. I know of people in the industry a long time ago that, you know, instead of getting the full HV PPE on, they'd just chuck a jacket on,
yeah,
and then chuck the hood on,
yeah,
and wouldn't even use bloody gloves.
Yeah,
doing an HV switch. But what about the pants? I'd be more worried about me tallywhacker getting blown off. You know, like what's going on here?
It goes further than that though. Like, I mean, we're sort of invested in this 24/7, so we hear quite a bit about it.
Yep.
Country, it happens a lot more than people think.
Yeah.
And it's not just the individual; it's organisations as well, like making stupid decisions around the type of PPE that, you know, people should be wearing.
Ill-informed, do you think? Some of these companies just ill-informed?
Ill-informed, and some of them, there's a little bit of an arrogance about it. I'd say there's quite a few organisations that just don't want to.
Tier ones, right?
They could be. Look, to be quite.
I would have thought they'd be at the forefront. You know, Fortescue and BHP, they'd be looking after their teams. You know?
You're right. I think it's taken some time, but yeah, they're probably leading that charge nowadays. But it did take some time because
I can't imagine those Sparkies that were in the news recently with BHP asking for bloody $450,000 a year. Can't imagine they'd be just chucking on some cotton bloody pants. They'd be getting the cream of the crop.
Yeah,
they'd be wearing your gear.
They hopefully soon will be. So yeah, look, those organisations are probably leading the way. I mean, we experienced that last week when we were up in the Pilbara, and their safety systems that they have in place are world class.
Yep.
So yeah, it probably in that mining sector is probably the ones that are leading that charge, but it's the organisations outside of that are probably still catching up a little bit. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot that are doing the right thing, but there's a lot that aren't, especially in that mid-tier space as well.
Yep.
You know, it could be the case of, you know, that they go down this path of, you know, giving 4 sets of non-FR clothing to an electrician, but then they'll go, just put one set of FR into your car and then you just use it when you need it. That opens up the biggest element of risk known to man. And
who would say that?
The amount of times I've actually heard it. Where
You've actually heard that?
Yeah, absolutely.
You either
just go,
I've
done this hundreds of times. I don't need that. I'll just quickly go and do it. Be right.
Yeah.
And that's where it happens, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it is a real problem. And that story with Mark, when he delivers that to people, it opens people's eyes straight away, and the feedback we get off it is so positive, and it changes people's perspective on things really, really quickly. He's always got people coming up to him after he's delivered, and he opens up conversation. Oh, I know this guy that had something. He goes, "You're right in what you're saying. You know, complacency is really bad. You know, we've got to improve in these areas." And so what he's doing is working. And none of this is a sales pitch in any way. We're really just trying to drive conversation and getting people making smarter decisions. I mean, I had a story late last year of an apprentice. I won't say who with.
Stealing me bloody questions, mate. You're on a roll. You missed your calling. You could have been a bloody podcast host.
Mate, I'm still young. So yeah, he was a 21-year-old apprentice we heard about in Melbourne.
Yep.
I won't say where from, but he was trying to do a job on a switchboard, we got told, in his record time. And
he's an apprentice.
Yeah, the young fella.
Inside a switchboard by himself.
Obviously wasn't being supervised.
Better not say the name of the company, mate.
He was wearing FR, but he was wearing FR unbuttoned. So his chest was exposed, copped an arc flash. From what I've heard, he's out of work for 2 years. He survived, obviously.
Wow.
But severely burned. So just little things like that. So ultimately, shouldn't be working live anyway. There's a real problem still in the industry with the old testing for dead scenario. So the rule is now testing for dead is considered live work. So if you're testing for dead, you should be wearing arc flash protection of some degree. I can tell you there is.
I can tell you, mate.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say too much, but
yeah.
But I can tell you what you're thinking.
Yeah.
About testing for dead. Myself as an electrician, if I was at home, let's just say I'm at home and I'm testing a GPO before changing it out.
Yep.
I'd be doing a prove, test, prove. You know, test it. He's got power there. Go out to the board, isolate it. come back in, prove it, that's dead, go and test against, okay, there's a live, that's the live circuit. I'm not putting any bloody protection on.
No.
That's in my own home. I can do whatever the fuck I want in my own home.
And look, to be honest, in the domestic space, it's probably a little bit different.
Yeah. I'm just using that as an analogy.
Yeah. I use it with a mate of mine who's an electrician by trade as well, and I get stuck into him when he's doing stuff at home. But there is some clear guidance now. So I'm not sure whether you've heard of the standard. It's called AS 4836.
I'm not all over it, no.
So it's an electrical safety standard, but the previous
is it about isolating at the board, like mains isolation before entering roof space or anything like that?
I'm pretty sure it's got bits of that in it, but in terms of like a PPE point of view, there was no guidance in this particular standard from 2011 as to when and where you should be wearing FR protection. The key word there was should. They always said should, which basically means it's like a recommendation. Yep. But they never sort of broke it down into what should be worn, where, and for what tasks. So now the standard was updated in 2023, where it actually gives, it's kind of a worst case scenario, but it really breaks it down in terms of what should be worn and where. Talking about domestic situations like 240 volt under 63 amps as an example, like it's always on a risk analysis basis. So it's, you don't want to wear it, you don't have to. Yep. Where it does change is more so in those three phase above 63 amps. That's where it's now got a clear guideline as to what you should be wearing. So the problem with that standard is the rollout of it and how many companies actually don't know that it exists. So I find it sort of strange that someone from my background is actually explaining this to people in that industry. But I'm
saying it's good that you're out there. Look, you can't be all over every single. If you're out there on the tools, you can't be all over every single standard. And you get a notification from Energy Safety, you get a notification from bloody the governing board of whatever state you're in, and anytime there's a change or a rewording, for sure. To be all over it would be difficult.
So I think the big thing too is organisations can be held liable now.
Absolutely.
If they're not doing the right thing, they can be held liable, and it's going to cost them a hell of a lot more than what FR or ARC rated protection is going to cost them.
Yeah.
So, but as I said, the perception around it is changing, and it has been changing probably over the last, I reckon, probably 5 to 6, maybe 7 years. We've sort of slowly seen that trend across the country. In some states more than others, there are some laggers, and there still is today.
Western Australia is not one of them.
Nah,
absolutely not.
We're
be
a
leading
leader.
from the forefront.
We're definitely a leader. Queensland definitely one of the leaders as well. I won't mention the other ones.
I'm going to say South Australia.
Actually, they're not going to. We're starting to see some change through there because the mining industry is booming over there.
Yeah.
It's probably improved a fair bit. If you'd asked me 5 years ago, I probably would have said yes. But I reckon it is a move.
Oh, cool.
We, as you can see, we kind of go things a little bit differently, or do things differently.
I guess that comes down. That's just the same old. You've got like a live version of a case study.
Correct.
So that's great. He's going to be able to. Mark's going around talking about the difference that it could have been.
Yeah, correct.
And what life would have been like if he was wearing the correct PPE.
Correct.
If you left home that day, or even got to work and put on the correct PPE, he'd be looking at a different story. And his loved ones.
The accident still would have happened probably.
For sure.
But he would have walked out probably with no scars on his arms, on his legs.
He was doing the right thing with the gloves, and he was protected the rest of his body.
Yeah.
His poor wife wouldn't have been there bloody holding the phone up 100%. To his ear and whatever she's up to.
Yeah, and he would have proposed to her probably a lot quicker than he did because they'd had a holiday booked to Hamilton Island. I think it was like a couple of weeks after. And he had the ring ready to go, and it all got put off.
I can imagine.
And went in the background, but eventually happened for him. But so I suppose how that ties in with us is obviously I mentioned about the YouTube channel. We've also developed a customised online portal. It's a self-learning education module that we've created. So
nice.
any end users or even our distribution networks can jump on there at request. They request access for it, but it's divided into two sections. One is around more of a bit of a product overview and understanding fabrics and fibres and things like that. And then there's a second part to it, which is understanding critical standards and test methods that we have to put the product through, and also the importance of certification, which I'm going to talk about with you as well. So, yeah, they can log in if they want to sort of upskill themselves a little bit and get a little bit of knowledge behind them and read a bit of a blurb on each topic. Could be a 2-pager or something like that. And then they have to answer 8 multiple choice questions and get them all right before they can move on to the next subject. So it's another thing that's taken off both at end user level as well as our distribution networks as well, because they can just sort of learn about it at their own time rather than listening to me.
Well, look, that's what it's all about, having these, like we run a product knowledge evening.
Yep.
Sometimes a couple of times a month. Pizza, maybe a frothy, maybe not.
Yeah.
And get in and start learning about different distributors' products.
Yep. So I suppose with all that coupled together, we've got that education and knowledge piece. So we go out and deliver that to industry. So I suppose 95% of the work that I do with Bull is end user based, because it's a very technical area.
Yep.
But that's how we approach it. It's education and knowledge. And then the second part of that is then, because I think I said before, once they understand it, they will respect it more. Right, and that's when the product will then come in, and then you can start talking about, okay, this is why our product is different.
Yep.
Right, and this is how it's going to protect you and why. So did you want me to just go straight into the product side of things?
Yeah, mate. Let's rip into it.
All right. So there's a couple of, I suppose, key areas,
and also the testing. Go into the testing as well that goes into it, because that's very important. Like you say, it's all very well selling a product, but what are we doing?
Yep. Glad you asked. So we'll start with that. So certification is something that lacks in Australia, in PPE in general, in Australia. So a quick example, if you were to go to buy FR or ARC protection products in the US or Canada or Europe, they can't just comply to the standards. They have to have third-party certification. So some of you know British Standards Institute or an SAI Global.
Yep.
They're just a couple of examples.
And we don't do that here. No third-party testing.
In some industries, but in the PPE industry, it's lacking, right? And there's no requirement to do so in a lot of those aspects. In some, there might be outside of what I do, but in PPE in general, it's lacking, right? So for those that probably are listening to this and don't understand it, so compliance basically means compliance without any verification, right? So you have to remember that we're dealing with factories overseas. We don't make anything in Australia anymore, if you haven't noticed. So we're typically buying these products from China or Pakistan or Vietnam or Bangladesh or wherever it may be. So getting a compliance document and a test report from one of those factories is basically putting a full reliance that factory is telling you the correct information. And trust me, I've seen test reports come through that have been false, right? Whether they've been
only imagine.
Whether they've been doctored with or whatever, I've seen it. So I had an example of this probably 4 weeks ago, where we've been investing in a particular fabric for another industry, but it's more so in the welding industry, and we're looking at things like impact spatter from molten metal from welding. And to get this particular this test method for this, they basically sit a fabric on a platform, and they'll drop molten metal droplets on this fabric. And to reach a class 1, you have to have a minimum 15 droplets actually hit the fabric before it actually burns through. To reach a class 2, which is the highest, you have to have a minimum of 25 droplets hit this fabric before it burns through, right? So we ended up getting this fabric from this factory, and we were touching and feeling it, going, oh, this feels pretty good, and it's class 2. And then we kind of thought about it, and it's like too good to be true. So we went and tested it ourselves. We went and sent it to one of our testing facilities in Spain, and then we got our factory that actually manufactures our product. We've got a really close relationship with our factory and have done for many, many years.
Where's the factory?
It's in China.
Yep.
It's a certified factory though. We have a direct relationship with them, so there's no agents involved. So they're actually invested in our business.
Yeah,
right?
awesome.
And the guy that runs the factory, he's a guru when it comes to FR materials and fabrics. I've learned to stack from this particular gentleman. So anyway, we got them to test it with their people as well. So we had two to compare to. Both test reports came back and failed.
Wow.
So it didn't even reach class 1, or did it reach class 2 that they were telling us it did. It didn't even pass. So that's compliance, right? So you're basically trusting the factory that you're dealing with that the information that they're giving you is 100% correct.
I hear this all the time,
right?
mate.
And we're talking about arc flash, right? Pretty serious shit.
Yep.
Right? So certification is a massive part of our business, not just in what I do, but across our broader business as well. So this is the first part about what makes us different, right? So we carry an Okotex certification, which is a Class 2 certification. So Okotex is one of the best-known global labels in the world for textiles. So we actually send our fabrics, all of our fabrics, to Okotex, and they investigate and test those fabrics to make sure that they're safe to be worn against the skin. There's no harmful chemicals or toxic substances that are going to cause any nasties to the skin.
Yep.
So that's one. But the biggest one is our British Standards Institute certifications that we have. Now, we are a market leader in this by a country mile. We certify to the 2 high visibility standards in Australia, which is AS 1906 and 4602. That's the boring part, right? So this covers us for things like the high visibility colours that we have because they've got to be a certain brightness and luminosity. The reflective tapes that we use, obviously for nighttime work, but covers us for the design and the construction of the garment as well. So it kind of guarantees a high quality production at the factory level because the factories are audited regularly as well. More importantly, we are the only FR brand in Australia that's actually certified to the test method that actually provides the arc rating or the calorie rating and protection level of your garment.
Awesome.
So it basically guarantees that what we're labelling the garment has been verified and validated by a third-party notified body. In this case, it's the British Standards Institute.
That's something to be bloody proud of, mate.
Mate, and it goes
if
along.
you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
You know?
It's something we believe in, and we think we've got a responsibility to industry.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know what? These are the reasons that, that's part of it. These are the reasons that there is that extra little cost
Correct.
to it because, you're out there making sure that you're putting your money where your mouth is.
Correct. Yeah. So there's that. And then the last one we've actually got 2 certifications for, which is NFPA 2112, which is kind of, I suppose, something that comes up in the oil and gas industry quite a fair bit. There's about 4 test methods involved in that standard, but we're certified to that whole standard. So it's a standard more for prevention of burns from flash fire scenarios.
Yeah, okay.
We carry 2 certifications for that. One's BSI, and the other one is called a UL certification. So UL is called Underwriters Laboratories in the US. So US-based organisation, British Standards Institute being UK-based. The reason we have 2 is we have a lot of international contractors that come from the US or Canada and Europe, come and do work in Australian waters, and they actually ask for that certification because they're used to it. For what
You'd be seeing that now in the defence industry, I can only imagine.
Yeah. So in Australia, we are way behind the times, and we're putting
that's crazy to think. I wouldn't have thought, like if you're bringing any sort of electrical apparatus into the country, it needs to be up to.
It's funny you say that because a lot of the electrical gear you buy from your Clipsals and Uniquips and all those types of companies that supply that switch gear is certified.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't buy uncertified product. It has to be certified. It's mandatory.
Yeah. So it begs the question: Why are governing bodies not doing enough to make sure that?
Very good question. So our broader business was actually.
Are you guys pushing it your end?
Yeah, all the time. It's actually one of the first things we talk about because a lot of the people that we deal with are generally going to be safety people, or they're going to be electrical superintendents or whatever, and they actually understand what certification is straight away. Like they understand it. So
it's an easy sell for you guys. This will be
So once you explain it, people then they're invested.
Absolutely.
Okay, right. We're really dealing with something here that's going to work for us. Then the product comes along. Right, so this is the next component to it. So just to, I suppose, to add to that from a certification piece, we're actually extending that program this year. So we've got another 2 standards that we're actually going to be certifying to as well, critical standards, which one will be the anti-static standard, and another one for limited flame spread of fabrics as well. So we're going to have a total of 7 certifications, 8 with our Wokatex certification, which is no one can touch us from that regard. So
what about your competition? Not that we want to be spending too much time on it, but are they following suit? Obviously, you guys be leading the charge. With some of these other companies.
I speak openly and honestly about it. There's 2 that are doing some type of certification. A lot of people assume that because you get a test report, that is certification.
Wild.
And it's not.
Makes me think about, like all the gloves, like you've got some, I'm looking at some glove matrices from some of the big boys.
Yeah.
And then, so every man and his dog's out there selling bloody gloves,
correct.
And then, the price range, like they're all just fighting each other to the bottom dollar.
Correct.
It's sad.
I suppose it's probably the good thing about our broader business. It's very, very similar in the way we go about things. We don't dabble in the cheap. Everything's built a certain way for a certain reason, and our hand protection range, which is done by our sister company over in Sydney, private brands.
We'll get someone, and we'll get someone else in from True Brands to run the bloody the glove matrix story for us.
You're very smart. But look, they were actually the first company in Australia to bring certification to hand protection.
Beautiful.
So it's certification is a big thing through our whole business. It's not just FR centric. It's something we believe in as a broader business across the board. Even with our non-FR ranges, they're certified all to the Australian standards for high visibility, etc. So something that we're all invested in and we understand it.
What do you reckon? What's a common misconception that the industry has about FR clothing?
Hot and heavy. Be the first one. But typically the biggest thing is that comparison to others, right? So, and this comes down to, it's actually probably a good segue that we're going down this path.
Should it be, if it's this sort of, PPE, does it really need to come down to, it should probably be department dependent rather than commercial, like if it's going through the commercial team, then they're looking at FR clothing. And that's got to be a hard push. If the storeman who's ordering the uniforms, like we've got an inbuilt uniform ordering system with our business. And a lot of the time they're just like, I want some blue cargo pants. I want orange and blue bloody
and that's
a Bisley shirt.
And that's the problem, is that it's typically compared, like brands will be compared, and a lot of the time it'll be a cost level, right?
Absolutely.
So they'll see one PPE 2 shirt in one brand and one PPE 2 shirt in another brand. One might be, just using round numbers, one might be $100 and the other one might be $90. And they go, okay, well, they're both PPE 2.
Those figures sound about right with our competitors, mate.
They're both lightweight, but one's cheaper than the other. So they go, go for that one.
Yeah.
What people don't understand, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Oh, for sure. That's what I'm saying,
but
begs the question,
people don't understand that those products are going to be vastly different.
Absolutely.
So especially from a lightweight and comfort point of view, there's a lot of lightweight products in the market. One thing I tell everybody in the industry is lightweight does not mean more comfortable, right? And that is factual, right? And the example I'll give there is we have a PPE 2 product in our range. It's highly sought after, lightweight, breathable, but it's not the lightest, right? 9.6 cal rated. There is a competitor product in the market. It's used by a few different brands, same fabric. They call it an ultra lightweight. It's actually 37 grams lighter per square metre, which is quite a big number, and also minimum 10 cal rated, right? So if you put those 2 examples together, they'll go minimum 10 cal, 9.6 cal. Okay, well that's higher. 160 GSM, 197 GSM, oh, that's lighter, right? When you put it out in the field, it's going to operate completely differently, right? And from a cost point of view, it might be a little bit cheaper as well, who knows, right? But the materials that are actually used to create that lightweight and the way that they construct the fabric. So when you construct a fabric at that weight and they make it that light, they have to actually make it a tighter weave.
Yep.
Make a tighter weave, it actually affects breathability.
Yep.
Think we see that product much up north?
Absolutely not.
It did the rounds for a couple of years, and people quickly cottoned on to the fact that even though it had this lightweight texture, they knew within 3 months that this was not a great product what they were wearing, and they were sweating in it a lot and whatnot. So when we go up against it now, you know full well that this 197 GSM versus a 160, this one's going to beat it every day of the week. So the difference between those lightweight materials, even though it's 37 grams, it's actually not that much when you think about it. When you put it on, you might notice the slightest little difference.
You notice it when you're sweating.
Yeah, absolutely. But this all comes down to the materials that are used.
Yep.
Right. So when you build an FR fabric or a garment, it's not just like the cotton drill that you buy where it's cotton. Right? It's cotton, 100% cotton drill. When you buy an FR fabric or you build an FR fabric, it's made up of multiple different fibres. Right. So our Parvatex fabric, for example, has 5 individual fibres that are actually in the yarn.
That'd be awesome to see production.
I can show some images of that as well. You can buy some brands that have only got 2 fibres in their yarn. You can have some that have got 3, some have 4. But it's also the makeup of those materials that actually make the garment as well, and the quality of those materials and where they're sourced. So I talked about price in the market. You can buy one PPE2 product in the market for $80. You can buy another one for $120, right? And they might, on a data sheet, seem similar. They couldn't be further apart in terms of a quality perspective, right? And that'll both be from a comfort and breathability level, but also durability and longevity.
Yeah.
So the way that we build our Parvatex fabric is built a certain way for a reason, right? We don't dabble in cheap. And the reason we don't dabble in cheap is because cheap's often, when you look at history, cheap doesn't work in the environments that these people are working in. And organisations hate it because they have to replace gear more often. Typical lifespan of FR fabrics in Australia is 6 to 9 months. So literally you're replacing gear every 6 months. You'd hope to be getting at least 12 months out of it, right? So that comes down to where and this is where, that's just that hidden, I suppose, element that people probably don't see. We have a lot of importers in the country that are bringing product in and that don't actually specialise in it. They don't have expertise behind it, right? So they're just getting a touch and feel. They don't actually understand what they're buying. But what they're buying a lot of the time is cheap materials, and they're buying it cheap because it makes it easy to sell to market.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? So the way that we make our fabric, and it's called Parvatex, as I mentioned, has 5 individual fibres in it, but every single fibre that's actually put into that yarn is sourced from the most premium factories in the world. So our first fibre that we have in there is what we call a monocrylic fibre. It makes up 50% of the fabric. It's sourced from the most premium factory in the world that produces monocrylics. Monocrylics are used in a lot of different industries, but it's actually a self-combustible fibre. So that's actually the fibre we use that actually gives our fabric a self-extinguishing aspect to it for flash fire scenarios. But the reason we buy that and we pay for it, right? We could be paying down here, but we pay up here. The reason we put that in is it's the most reliable and it's strong, right? Then we have a cotton aspect to it. Cotton's not unique to wool either, right? As monocrylics are used by other manufacturers as well, but they use it from different locations and buy it cheaper. Cotton's the same. So we actually use a premium cotton fibre in our product, and the reason we use it is because it's designed to keep people more comfortable for longer in more trying conditions. I think I mentioned before about our biggest selling area of the product in Darwin because it just handles those hot and humid conditions exceptionally well. A lot of businesses or people or factories are using what they call standard cottons or short staple cottons. Use it because it's cheaper.
Yep.
Right. Long staple cottons or long fibre cotton will actually keep people drier for longer. Right. You talked about like when you're sweating in your product and that's where you get all uncomfortable. That's a sign of usually that standard cotton. It becomes almost like a bristly sort of feel, a harder texture. You'll only notice it when you're sweating in it and getting uncomfortable. So that's another one. Now, the big one that we have, this is probably our trump card, and this is where it delivers value back to organisations. So when you make an FR material, you have to add a strength fibre to the product. If you don't, it'll just rip and tear like paper. Okay. Every FR brand or fabric in the country today, excluding us, use what they call an aramid fibre, and aramids have been used for a long time. Aramid is a very, very strong fibre. It's also an FR fibre. Quite strong. It's used in different textiles all over the world. You'll find it in some hand protection as well at times. But the problem with it is when you put it into high-vis materials, especially for Australia, it's actually got weakness to UV exposure.
Oh, wow.
So what happens over time? Now, some
UV
products...
exposure in bloody Western Australia, that's a tough one to combat.
100%, right? So that aramid fibre will degrade over time. As that degrades, it gets weaker. That means your garment gets weaker, and that's when you get rips and tears and blowouts in your fabrics, right? Some brands will perform better with others. It depends what the makeup of the other fibres are that they use, because they will contribute to a strength aspect in some way.
Yep.
But eventually, as that aramid fibre weakens, your garment's going to get weaker, and that's when it's more prone to giving way.
Okay.
We don't use aramids, so this is a patented technology that we have. So we use a fibre, it's called a polyarylate fibre, or what we brand as Vectron. It's a fibre that's 5 times stronger than steel, but 10 times stronger than aluminium.
Wow.
But really lightweight and flexible. It doesn't affect the texture of the fabric. We only have to use 8% of it in the fabric makeup. Doesn't degrade to UV exposure either. But what it does too is it actually makes it rip and tear proof for the lifetime of the fabric. It's cut resistant.
Wow.
So the value back to the organisation all of a sudden becomes from paying this much and you're up here to being down here in 12 months, 24 months time.
Yep, absolutely, because we're not buying double the amount.
100%. So we've got the best of both worlds with the product. We've got a product that is lightweight. It's not the lightest, and we don't profess that it will be, but it's lightweight. It breathes exceptionally well. It's very comfortable to wear. It's soft on the skin. People are going to want to wear it.
Yep.
Right? But then we've got the second aspect to it is that organisations now have an opportunity to give people really good quality gear, but they can get the value out of it as well because they're not going to replace it as much.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it is a really unique composition that we have, but people aren't going to understand that. So when
you need the end user to be wearing it. You need, like you guys, as you've got case studies, and it's the more people that are wearing the gear, and the more time you talk to them, and I'm sure that you're doing, wouldn't be a PPE trials. I'm sure. Well, you probably are doing PPE trials with some companies, but it's that feedback that that you can then take on and take out to other.
I often say, like after we've done our spiel, and I probably sound like a car salesman.
Not at all, mate. You're super knowledgeable. It's amazing.
But I often say, don't listen to me. You've heard what we said. It's my name on the brand. If I'm talking shit to you, like please come back and give me a rapful.
Yeah.
But go and try the gear out for yourself. I'll give you some gear and go and try it. And usually when we get to that point where they go and try it, very, very rare does it come back where they go, oh, no, we don't like this.
Yep.
It's usually very, very positive. And the biggest hurdle is convincing those organisations to go, okay, take the leap. You might be paying this now, pay this, and you'll be saving money 12 months.
And it's not for all their staff either. It's not for all the staff. It's, like certainly into the gold mining industry.
Yeah.
You're looking at the the Sparkies.
Yeah.
Anyone who's going to be frequenting a MCC.
Yeah. Yep.
So it might be some of the supervisors, shift bosses, things like that.
Yep.
But I think, protecting your team is paramount to protecting the employees. You've got a duty of care, on your side with, the companies want to do, companies want to do the right thing.
Yeah. I think I mentioned it before. Like in what we're protecting against, we have a right, not a right, we have a responsibility.
Absolutely.
To industry to educate people and get people to understand what this gear actually is and get them to understand what they're buying, whether it's bull or not, whether they're buying something else, get them making smarter decisions and making smarter choices. Absolutely. Not just for the organisation, but the people that are actually wearing it and putting themselves in harm's way. There's going to be a lot of meetings that we go into, and I say this openly when I present to organisations, that I know not everyone's going to buy bull.
Yep.
That's a reality of the world we live in, right? But if I can leave that room, have them thinking differently and have a different understanding and perspective about what FR actually is, what these fabrics actually consist of, they're going to make smarter choices, right? Whether it's bull or not. But in 12 months' time, when something goes wrong, they're going to remember what we've spoken about.
Absolutely.
And it happens. We haven't been given an opportunity. 12 months' time, we get a phone call. Just remembered your conversation. We'd like to have a chat with you.
Awesome.
So our vision's divided up into 3 areas. One is we've got a real desire to decrease complacency in the industry, and we can play a role in that by teaching what we're teaching. Right? Number 2, save people from severe burn injuries. And we see it with our brand ambassador, Mark, and he's, as I said, a unique perspective of that. And 3, we ultimately save lives.
Yep.
Right. And if we can, outside
that's
of,
amazing, mate. That's fantastic.
We're outside.
What a great outlook.
Thanks. Yeah. We're obviously here to make money. We're all here to make money, right? So we want to sell as much of our gear as possible, right?
But doing the right thing while doing it.
If I'm out there and something that we've been able to pass on to somebody alongside with Mark has actually saved someone their life or saved them from severe burn, I think we're doing all right by
definitely.
doing that. So if we can contribute in that way, outside of the selling part of what we do, I'd walk away a pretty happy man knowing that we've been able to contribute in some way.
Dino, last question for me, mate. If you had to sit down with an electrical apprentice, electrical superintendents, commercial managers, what would you be saying to them about bull protective clothing, mate?
Well, there's probably a couple of different, I suppose, way we would go about it. We're obviously putting out that message from an educational point of view, which we talk about with Mark a lot with what he went through. So the first one would be don't cut corners. Don't rush. Take your extra 5 minutes. Make sure you do your risk analysis properly, or your risk management profile. Do your swims. Make sure you do it all the right way. Don't just do something to please the client. Do what's right.
Yep.
The PPE is the last line of defence, right? So when you have all those systems in place, things should go well. But as we said before, shit happens. So you do want to be making sure that you've got the right PPE in place, so your arc-rated protection. So it's got to be the appropriate calorie rating for one. But the biggest thing I would be telling organisations is make sure that you're getting certified FR or arc-rated protection, because that is a guarantee.
Absolutely.
Compliant PPE should not have a place, especially in arc flash protection. It should not have a place in our industry. It should be guaranteed.
Absolutely, mate. Look, I would. I'll certainly be pushing bull protective clothing out to our clients, because from what you've told me today, mate, what an amazing brand, amazing story, and just that the fact that all the hard work that you put into making sure that the testing's correct.
Yep.
Which is, if you're out there as a Sparky, that's what you're doing. That's your bread and butter. You're testing.
Yep.
Making sure that you're protecting everyone, yourself, the end user, the electrical apparatus, and to know that you've got a company that the gear that you're wearing is putting that same effort in. I think it speaks bloody volumes, mate.
Yeah.
So, look, thank you very much for joining me.
Anyone
who's watching this will know that the bull gear is the way forward.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks for having me on. Really, really enjoyed the experience. Thanks a lot.
Cool, mate. Not a problem. Thank you very much for tuning into another episode on the Gold Room Podcast. If you're keen to get myself or Dino here out to site to talk to your commercial teams about getting this good gear, that's what you need. You need great gear out on site, and this is the company to do it. Thank you.